The latest numbers are out, and we're maintaining our stride. 3.5 million job vacancies projected for cybersecurity, with job growth for security analysts going up by another 31.5%. And so we're seeing a lot of those entry-level jobs finally starting to move forward within the sphere of cybersecurity. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how to ace that interview, how to crush that interview for cybersecurity. I'm Dr. K, and I would appreciate that like, that subscribe, and of course that bell icon at the bottom. Let's jump right into it. What are some tips to really knock out that interview? I hear from this all the time from especially college students and some of the other programs that I teach in. And students often ask me, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to my interview and I was woefully unprepared. Unprepared 100% for the types of questions and for the interview process it is. It's hard enough to land an interview in cybersecurity. I've got students that honestly have sent out over 100 resumes and have not gotten an interview. And by the way, if that's you, you need to redo your resume. You need to you're doing something wrong. You 100% are. Your resume should get you a job interview 1 out of 10 times. It really should. You should be getting a 10% kickback on your resume. And if you're not, then there's something in your resume that is woefully wrong, or it's not formatted correctly, or there's too much or too little. Resume writing is a science, and I hate to say this, but sometimes you may want to hire somebody. No, I will not look over all your resumes. I have over 1,000 students, and I can't do that for my own students. But there are some tips and tricks. I don't do those, but definitely find somebody that can. All right, maybe we'll do a video on that later down the road. I'm going off on a tangent again. Let's get back into this. So, your interview tips. Research the company and the role. You should know what the company does. What does the company do for a living? How do they make money? What is their overall mission? What are their values? How are they going about their business every day? And what's the job role? What's the job role that you're interviewing for? If you have a callback for an interview for a specific position, you should be going back online, figuring out what that job role is, brushing up on it, and understanding that job role front, backwards, and sideways. You need to come to the company, to that interview, understanding what they're looking for so that you can brush up on any of those things that you may have forgotten. Because sometimes it's been a couple months since you've gotten a job interview, since you've worked on something in cybersecurity, or since you've messed around with what that job actually does. And so brushing up on it, it's not cheating, it's preparing. And you need to prepare for that interview. All right, tip number 2. Brush up on those fundamentals, right? What is the CIA triad? What's AAA? What's encryption? How does encryption work? All of these items that you studied for, whether in college, whether within a boot camp course, regardless of where you got that knowledge, whether it's from reading a book, maybe you're self-studying, it doesn't matter. You need to brush up on all those skills. You need to be able to answer those questions. Because a lot of times you'll have multiple rounds of interviews with that company, and the first interview is literally usually just to find out if you actually can walk the walk, right? Can you talk it? Can you walk it? And if you can't answer basic questions like AAA, like CIA triad, then you're probably not going to get around to the second round interview. So it's probably not going to happen. I often suggest going back and taking a practice Security Plus exam 2 or 3 times before your actual interview. It gets those juices flowing, reminds you of what you're talking about. Even if you've got Security Plus like 3 weeks ago, go back and take some practice exams. Believe it or not, you may know the answers, and that's fine. It's just to get those juices flowing in your head so that you can talk, so you can set yourself up for it. One of the things I often tell students is, listen, if you've got an interview in an hour, about an hour to an hour and a half away, take some practice exams. Take some practice Security Plus exams or CYSA Plus exams. Get those juices flowing. Get your mindset in the fact that you are going for a cybersecurity interview. You are going to be asked questions, I guarantee it, about cybersecurity. All right, next one, problem-solving scenarios. Get some friends to ask you some technical questions, especially if you're in college, right? How would you handle X? How would you do with Y, right? I have a virus on my computer, what we do it? That's a great help desk question. If you're interviewing for a SOC question, there's an email that's filing around with known malicious software, what would you do? These are scenario-based questions that you should be able to answer and go through that incident response cycle, right? Even if you've never touched it before, you probably have the theoretical knowledge for it. Make sure that you understand how to answer those questions, all right? Problem-solving scenarios are one of the key ways that I can differentiate between this person and this person because they really set people aside. Can you clearly articulate what's being asked of you? Can you answer that question in a clear, concise manner? Or are you fumbling? Are you going through the process and just completely failing? All right. Next tip, soft skills. Become a team player. do communication. How do you become a team player? I guess that's kind of a misnomer, right? You need to talk and get used to saying we. Get used to saying we. We should be in your vocabulary for pretty much everything that you talk about, right? People ask me all the time, they're like, wait a second, you just said we, but it's only you working on the project. Yeah, I know. But I'm going to say we all the time. I've trained my mind to say we, right? Not like French, but literally like more of us, right? And so you need to have that team player attitude. It always needs about the team, okay? What I'm looking for if I'm hiring somebody for a technical role, for any role for that matter, is can they be a team player? Am I going to have to worry about your drama? I don't want drama in my workplace. If you've ever heard me talk about to new students about hiring people, you'll understand that it's not about your skill set a lot of times. I would rather hire somebody that is a 100% team player and knows very little about cybersecurity over somebody that's an expert in cybersecurity but is not a team player. Team players in cybersecurity, it is not a basement job. If you've got this mindset where you're like, oh, I just hide in the basement, I get to wear a hoodie and I play on the computer all day. No, that's not cybersecurity. That's not what we do anymore. That is definitely not it. So you need to learn how to become a team player. You need to start saying we a lot. You need to be able to articulate what you're doing. How does the communication work? All those great things. So if you've got a bachelor's degree in cyber, good news. You're probably already set up a little bit for success because a lot of colleges teach that. If you're going into a transition from an old career over to this career and you worked in retail, if you've ever worked in any type of customer facing, got good news for you. You're already set up. You already know how to communicate. Just make sure that it's about a team playing attitude, not an I attitude. We can spot it. We really can. All right, that leads us to the next tip, psychological questions. You need to be able to answer questions like, tell me about a time you handled a critical security incident, or tell me how you handled a critical problem in your own life, or tell me how you were able to overcome a challenge. How did you prioritize tasks under pressure? These are all psychological questions that are designed to get you to come out of your box, to tell us a story. You need to be able to tell that story very well. You need to articulate. There needs to be a start, a middle, and an end. And you need to be prepared, right? You need to be prepared. I remember sitting in an interview, and we asked this question to somebody, and they stood there. They were like, well, I'm thinking. Well, why didn't you have an answer prepared? You knew this was coming. It's a common tactic in interviews for these types of questions to be asked. You need to be able to think on your feet, and you need to be able to come up with a story pretty quickly. So be prepared for it. It's all about preparation. All right, next tip, current trends. There are a lot of great content creators out there for vlogs, for blogs. They're all over the place, right? Darknet Diaries is a good one. There's all kinds of them out there, right? But you need to stay up to date on current trends. What's going on with ransomware? What's a known attack, right? If you could come to the interview and articulate an attack that happened within the last 24 hours, 48 hours, and tell me how you would have fixed it or your thoughts on it, right? From a technical standpoint, and here's the trick, right? You can't be emotional about it, but you need to be able to provide enough detail about it that you can identify what the problem was, what they did wrong, right? What you believe they did wrong, what you would have done to fix the problem, and what you would do to make sure that problem doesn't happen again. Those are all things that you need to be able to articulate in your interview, because we're going to ask you sometimes about current trends, or there may be an opportunity where you can explore your knowledge, your expertise in that, and talk about current trends. And you need to be able to do that. All right, last tip for this video, ask questions at the end. I cannot tell you how many times we go, do you have any questions for us? And then we just get this deer in headlight stance, especially for brand new people entering the field. You need to articulate questions. If you don't ask questions at the end, how do we know that you're actually interested in the position? How do we know where your mind frame is at? You should have 2 to 3 good questions. Good questions, not bad questions. What is a bad question? What are my hours? Oh, how much do I get paid? Those are bad questions. Those are not questions you should be asking. Good questions would be like, can you tell me what I would be doing in this current role? And then act excited about it when we answer, right? What would be another great question that you could ask? What is there opportunity for extending my knowledge? Or are there educational opportunities or training opportunities that I could partake in? These are great questions that you should be asking, right? Because why? Why does that question? It tells me that you're interested in growing not only as a person, but in your technical role. That's what that tells me, all right? So be prepared to ask some really good questions at the end, because if you don't, we're just going to assume that you're really not that interested. We're going to go to the guy that does, or the girl, right? All right, that's it for me for today. I'm Dr. K. As always, if you could hit that like, that subscribe, and of course that bell icon, I would appreciate it. Till next time, we'll see you again.